Well, I can't remember how it starts, but the punchline is, "Leave me alone. I'm bushed."
For the first season of Avatar The Last Airbender, Zuko was the villain. He chased Aang across the world. He attacked villages. He threatened children. He was angry, relentless, and ruthless, and you were supposed to hate him. But here's what the show was actually doing the entire time, and what most kids completely missed: Zuko wasn't evil. He was a 13-year-old child who had been systematically broken by his own father, and then sent across the world to prove he was worth loving. His scar isn't a villain's mark, it's evidence. Evidence of what was done to him before we ever met him. And once you see the show through that lens, once you understand what Zuko was actually carrying from episode 1, his entire arc stops being a redemption story and becomes something far more painful, far more honest, and far more human. Today we go inside the mind of the most complex character in Avatar, and I promise you, by the end of this, you won't see the scar the same way again.
I know you're hiding him!
Let's go back to before the Warfleet, before the Blue Spirit Mask, before any of it. Zuko grew up in the Fire Nation Royal Palace with his father Ozai, his mother Ursa, and his sister Azula, and from the very beginning, the two children were treated completely differently. Azula was prodigious, a firebending prodigy who could produce blue flames, the hottest, most controlled form of fire, as a child. She was sharp, precise, and ruthless in ways that delighted her father. Ozai saw himself in her. Zuko was none of those things. He was slower, more emotional, more like his mother. He struggled with firebending. He asked too many questions. He cared about things, honor, loyalty, people, that Ozai considered weaknesses. There's a detail in the flashback sequences that most people walk past. Young Zuko doesn't want his father's approval because he's ambitious. He wants it because he loves him. That's the distinction that makes everything that follows devastating rather than simply dramatic. This is a child who looked at a cold, cruel, narcissistic parent and loved him anyway. Because children do. Because children don't get to choose their parents, and they will bend themselves into any shape necessary to earn the love they need to survive. And then Ursa disappeared. The one parent who saw Zuko, who protected him, who loved him without condition, was gone. And Zuko was left alone in a palace with a father who had never valued him, and a sister who had learned to weaponize that dynamic perfectly. What happened next wasn't a villain origin story, it was a child abuse case, and the scar is where it starts.
My father decided to teach me a permanent lesson on my face!
The scar. Let's talk about it directly. For the entire first season, Avatar gives you the scar, but withholds the story. You know Zuko has it. You know it came from an Agni Kai, a formal Fire Nation duel. You're led to assume it was earned in battle, or through some act of aggression, or at minimum through something Zuko chose. Season 2 reveals the truth, and it changes everything retroactively. Zuko was 13. He attended a war meeting he was not supposed to attend. He spoke out, not arrogantly, not to challenge his father's authority, but because a general was proposing to sacrifice an entire division of new soldiers as a decoy. Young soldiers, expendable lives treated as a tactical distraction. Zuko stood up and said it was wrong. For that act, for speaking moral truth in a room full of power, Ozai challenged him to an Agni Kai. Zuko assumed he would fight the general he had insulted. He didn't know until he turned around that he would be facing his father, and Zuko refused to fight. He dropped to his knees, he begged. He said he hadn't meant any disrespect. Ozai burned his face anyway. Take a moment with that. A father burned his 13-year-old son's face because the boy showed mercy to soldiers and then refused to fight back. Ozai called it cowardice. He called it weakness. He told his son he had shamed himself and banished him from the Fire Nation until he could capture the Avatar, a task that was, by design, impossible. This is not a backstory. This is the entire psychological architecture of Zuko's character. Season 2, Episode 20, The Crossroads of Destiny. This is the episode, the one that redefines everything. Zuko and Katara are trapped together in the crystal catacombs beneath the Earth Kingdom, and something extraordinary happens. Zuko, for the first time in the entire series, drops the act. He talks to Katara like a person. He talks about his mother, about his scar, about not knowing who he is or what he's supposed to want. Katara, who hates Zuko, who has every reason to, offers to heal his scar. With the sacred water she has from the North Pole, she reaches out to him. She sees the boy under the anger, and for one moment, Zuko is at the crossroads the episode is named for. He is standing in the exact place where his whole arc has been building toward. The choice is right there. Then Azula arrives, and she does what Azula always does. She finds the precise pressure point and applies it perfectly. She appeals to Zuko's need for his father's approval. She offers him restoration. She offers him home. She offers him exactly the thing a traumatized child who has been exiled, rejected, and burned will always be most vulnerable to. Zuko betrays them. It is the single most gutting moment in the series, because the show had spent 2 full seasons building toward this pivot, and then showed you that trauma doesn't resolve itself just because the right moment appears. That a person who has been conditioned to associate love with obedience will choose obedience even when love is being freely offered, because the conditioning runs deeper than the moment. Zuko didn't choose evil in that cave. He chose the familiar. He chose the version of himself his father had been trying to build since he was 13 years old. But here's what the show does next that almost no story has the courage to do. It shows you what choosing wrong actually costs, not in punishment, in self-knowledge. Zuko gets everything he wanted. Season 3 opens with Zuko restored to the Fire Nation. His father's favor returned. His honor ostensibly reclaimed. He is home. He is Prince Zuko again. He should be at peace. He is completely, utterly miserable. He can't sleep. He has nightmares. He snaps at his uncle's letters. He sits in the palace he fought 2 seasons to return to and feels nothing that was supposed to come with it. Because the peace he was chasing was never about the palace. It was never about his father's approval. It was about the belief that if he just did the thing, if he captured the Avatar, if he proved himself, if he became the version of Zuko Ozai wanted, the hole inside him would finally close. The hole doesn't close, because it was never about achievement. It was about being loved as he was, not as he performed. The Beach. From Season 3, Episode 5. Zuko and his friends around a bonfire, pushing each other's buttons to be honest, and Zuko says it out loud, possibly for the first time in the entire series. I'm angry. I'm so angry I don't know what to do. I don't know who I am anymore. Not posturing, not a battle cry, just a teenager sitting on a beach, telling the truth about the weight of being expected to be something you don't understand and aren't sure you want. Fast forward a few episodes and finally, the confrontation. Zuko goes to his father and he says the thing that required every episode of the entire series to build toward, he is not going to help him. He is joining the Avatar because it's right. Ozai disowns him immediately, without hesitation, without grief. Ozai never loved Zuko. He loved the idea of Zuko as a vessel for his own ambitions. And the moment Zuko refuses to be that vessel, Ozai has no use for him. And Zuko, who spent 3 seasons trying to earn this man's love, walks away. Not because he stopped wanting it, because he finally understood something that is one of the hardest lessons a human being can learn. Some people cannot give you what you need. Not because you haven't earned it, because they don't have it to give. Here's the question. Zuko's arc is really asking, how much of who you are was chosen, and how much was installed in you by people who needed you to be a certain way for their own reasons? The most important figure in their world, that their authentic self was wrong, and who spent years trying to sand down the parts of themselves that got punished, and who finally, painfully, chose to stop. Most of us have a version of that. Not a burning scar and an exiled prince, but a moment or a relationship or a system we grew up inside that told us some part of us was too much or not enough or needed to be hidden to be acceptable. Zuko's victory at the end of Avatar isn't defeating the Fire Lord. Aang handled that. Zuko's victory is sitting in his uncle's coffee shop alongside friends and family as the new Fire Lord, for the first time in a long time, happy.
How can you forgive me so easily? I thought you would be furious with me.
I was never angry with you. I was sad because I was afraid you lost your way.
If you're new here, every week on this channel, we go past the plot, past the nostalgia, and into the psychology behind the characters that raised us. Make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you inside the next mind.